Calling for Gardaí to release road policing stats. Park says the publication of the number of road policing units is important to understand where resources are being delivered. A report published earlier this month found some roads policing personnel are doing the bare minimum or less. Spokesperson Susan Gray says figures haven't been released for the past 2 months.
Because it's vital to know if the promise from Garda headquarters last year to have 150 more Gardaí assigned to roads policing by the end of this year is going to be achieved. There needs to be transparency. The public need to know how many have we in roads policing at the minute.
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. The music star and the Kansas City Chief tight end announced the news on Instagram. The post is captioned, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married." They've included a series of photos of them, including one of Travis down on one knee. And tennis fans at the US Open can now pay $100 for caviar-topped chicken nuggets. The snack is sold in boxes of 6 at the Kokodak food stand outside the Arthur Ashe Stadium. The owner of the Korean fried chicken restaurant says the food perfectly complements the extravagance of the tournament. It was only available in the exclusive club-level seats last year, but has now been expanded to the general public. Early reviews have called the chicken chewy, salty and crispy. And that's your news for now.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Dubs won't win, Sam. Swap Croke Park for Hyde Park with Ryanair's low-fare flights to London Stansted, Luton and Gatwick.
Rain and blustery winds will move northeastwards across the country tonight. Some heavy and thundery downpours are possible and may cause spot flooding. Moderate to fresh and gusty southeast to southwest winds and lowest temperatures of 10 to 13 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
Good evening and welcome along to Tuesday night's Off the Ball. We're with you until 10 o'clock tonight and loads coming your way over the next 3 hours. We're going to be speaking to Sean Patton, the Donegal goalkeeper, from 7:30 to reflect on his inter-county season for 2025. We're going to be chatting to Springbok legend John de Villiers after 8 o'clock to get a sense of where South Africa are now at. They've beaten Australia once, lost to Australia once, and we'll get a sense of what the optimism levels are like in South Africa. We're also going to be talking all things Republic of Ireland in the football show after 9 o'clock. Heimir Hallgrímsson named his squad for the Hungary and Armenia games earlier on. And we're also going to be speaking to John Hartson this evening at full time of tonight's Celtic game. What time that might be is still unclear because it is 0-0 on aggregate after 60 minutes of the second leg. Celtic have just survived in the last 5 minutes the threat of an indirect free kick. Kasper Schmeichel had to handle a back pass that gave away the indirect free kick, but Kairat Almaty couldn't put the ball into the back of the net. That's the name of the team, not the name of their star striker. There might have been some suggestion of a handball, but Celtic survived in that instance. So 62 minutes on the clock. Brendan Rodgers looking concerned on the sideline. This one is going all the way. 087 9180 180 is our number if you want to drop us a WhatsApp. Stephen Doyle is here in studio. Hello, Steve-o.
How you doing, Al?
And Vinny Perth is going to be with us for the Newsround and for the football show. Vinny, you're welcome.
I thought we might be introduced as the co-hosts of the cult football podcast, the LOI pod and Off the Ball, but
yeah, well, to be fair, sometimes you just get lucky when you have a guest in studio where big world news breaks and you're like, thank God we have Vinny Perth in studio. You'll have heard it there, the good news coming through in the last story in the news bulletin there. Taylor Swift engaged. Vinny, what do you make of this?
It's just incredible news. I'm delighted for her, I have to say. I must send her a text message later on just to congratulate her.
This is a serious news round. We've no time for this gossip, like TMZ style.
There's no gossip about it. It's true.
Reporting. This is unbelievable.
He got down on one knee in a garden.
Do you reckon Eoin is missing his game much at the moment? This is what he leads the Newsround with. Says it all.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Vinny, and you're going to
nothing Kerry to talk about at the moment, no?
We'll try with Sean Patton there at 7:30. The one thing that's really concerning, Vinny, is that if you Google Taylor Swift's name right now, confetti comes out of the Google search. However, if you Google Travis Kelce's name right now, no confetti comes out. What do you think is behind that? Why does the internet love Taylor Swift more so than Travis Kelce? We know who's wearing the trousers in that relationship, basically. Yeah. You're very welcome, Vinny. You've been keeping a close eye on this Celtic game for the last little while. I love an indirect free kick. We don't see enough of them in the game.
Yeah, indirect free kicks just basically inside the 6-yard box, and Celtic really lucky. Looks like a handball. I'm very surprised VAR didn't sort of overturn it. Referee wave play on. Celtic have been what they have been most of the season. Okay in possession, have about 60% of the ball, but very passive and slow and not enough intensity. And that has been the complaint about this Celtic team this season. So it's a bit more of the same, and it feels like it's a huge win for them, isn't it, if they can get over the line? But it doesn't look like. It looks like it's going all the way. It doesn't look like there's a goal coming anytime soon.
No. Well, this is season on the line stuff, really. I mean, when it comes to judging Celtic, the likes of Tom English have often said it on the show that you judge Celtic at the end of the year in terms of how many scalps they've managed to take in Europe. And this is what it comes down to now, the next 25 minutes. How long their European season or how long their Champions League season is going to go for.
Yeah, 100%. And certainly under Brendan Rodgers, they've never really had, Europe has been disappointing for Brendan Rodgers at Celtic. And, last season he got a couple of signings in the summer transfer window. But as usual, the club's board and chairman have been dragging their feet in relation to transfers. It's gotten so bad that they've been linked to Jamie Vardy over the last couple of the weeks. 38 years of age, talking about bringing him in on a free transfer. He's obviously a free agent now. And it's just... And as well, I could never get my head around... The vitriol from Celtic supporters for Alameda is just incredible. You jump on social media, and I know, look, it's not the best gauge, but I follow a couple of good Celtic supporter websites on social media, and the general dislike for Alameda and some of the criticism that he gets from Celtic supporters really just is incredible. Like, rather than maybe rowing in behind Alameda and trying to give him, there just seems to be almost like a snobbery that the route that he took to Parkhead via Norwich City, that he just isn't really up to the Celtic standards. And look,
is that the truth though?
Well, he hasn't set the world alight at Celtic, but maybe that's because there's been so much chopping and changing in regards to their attacking play and the players that he's playing around. I don't think Brendan Rodgers plays the kind of system that might suit Alameda. He's a very talented player. I think he's definitely talented enough to play for a Celtic team in the Scottish Premiership and in Europe. But listen, he played poorly last week, there's no doubt about it. But Kairat Almaty set up in a way that they were defending in a low block. They didn't give Celtic much space in that attacking third last week, and that's not the kind of game that suits Alameda. He likes to get in behind defences, maybe hold the ball up, bring other players into play, but he just couldn't do that last week. So,
but do you not think the bigger picture on Celtic, Steve-O, is that they almost have to do a Paris Saint-Germain, and French league is obviously a lot stronger than the Scottish league, but almost complete, because what you're investing in, you're still going to win the league. You're probably going to win 2 or 3 trophies every year at the moment until Rangers come back. You're probably not going to get beyond the quarterfinal of a Champions League by spending any more or any less money. So do you have to go actually huge investment, or else stand still and keep the money in the bank and run the club in a sound footing? There's always money there to pay the bills. There's always, their top earner apparently is around 25 grand, and that's sort of the upper limit for the squad. So unless you break that ceiling, you're probably always going to be a group stage Champions League team. One year you might get lucky, you might get out of a group, you might get to a quarters, maybe if you're lucky, but you ain't going beyond that unless you go into the next level of world football.
But even then, there's lots of restrictions now. They're bound by the same UEFA regulations that Aston Villa have struggled to abide by in terms of what you're actually spending on the team and wages as a percentage of your own revenue, and they're obviously not dealing with anywhere near the same television rights money as the Premier League is, so they're hamstrung immediately on that front.
I always felt that going back to Brendan Rodgers was a mistake, and I know he's obviously had success since going back the second time, but a manager of his standard, that's not surprising. But even looking at the way Celtic played last week, and they just couldn't figure out a way to break down that Kairat Almaty team down, and that's Rodgers, that's his job. It's his job to figure out a game plan to try and beat teams like this. And I think what Celtic need to do is they need to find themselves a manager or a coach who's going to, Rodgers has been around a long time now, and I don't see him having evolved over the last couple of years. He's not playing football too differently to the way he did at Leicester City or at Swansea or anything like that.
I get that, right? So sorry for interrupting you,
Yeah,
but
no,
say Gasparini and what he did at Atalanta.
Yeah.
Celtic fans want that same journey, but he was still able to spend huge money. He was still in not even at the higher level. He was able to develop young players, etc. But he was playing in a really top league.
See, you've hit on something there, Vinny. Young players.
Yeah.
He brought through young players at Atalanta, gave them a chance. Rodgers doesn't really do that at Celtic. You know, there hasn't been, like, Celtic for years did have a great academy and they brought through young players. That hasn't really been happening. You know, they've been relying on bringing in signings from, obviously when Postecoglou was there, they brought players in from Asia, unknown players to this side of the world, and that's the way they kind of went about it. But there hasn't been a huge amount of young talent. As we know as well, so many young Irish players went to Celtic with the hopes of going through the academy and breaking through, and it's a graveyard. It's a graveyard for Irish players and for a lot of young players as well.
We have to say as well that Atlanta's revenue is much greater than Celtic's as well, by about 100 million euro, just by a quick Google search. However, a large amount of Atalanta's revenue comes from massive player sales, which Celtic could also aspire to.
And you have to say that sort of 5th, 6th, 7th ranked team in Italy still is more of an attraction to those type of players than a Celtic winning the league every year.
Well, they certainly are when they're going to progress in Europe. But like, you're right as well, because they're going to be playing against better players in Serie A as well.
Forrest and Young are coming off for Celtic, and here comes Adam Ida alongside Arne Engels. How satisfying it would be if Adam Ida were to come on and score a winner in the last 20 minutes here. We will keep you updated on what happens in the Celtic game. We're 20 minutes away from full time, but we could see 30 minutes more football, I suspect, at the end of this. Now, the news round is with UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action. Ida is in the Republic of Ireland squad. Steve-O, what else can you tell us about today's announcement?
Yeah, Captain Seamus Coleman was left out of that squad for next month's World Cup qualifiers. Coleman's last cap was the Nations League home defeat to England last September. He's yet to feature for Everton this term and played just 19 Premier League minutes as a sub in this calendar year. Ireland boss Heimir Hallgrímsson went to speak with Coleman and his manager David Moyes at the club's training ground last Friday. He revealed that today at the press conference, and the Icelander also said he wasn't ruling him out for matches later in the campaign. Also missing are the injured trio of Andrew Omobamidele, Will Smallbone and Robbie Brady. The experienced left back is out of the opening 2 qualifiers with a calf injury sustained in pre-season with Preston. Hallgrímsson admits losing the FAI Senior Men's Player of the Year for the Hungary and Armenia games is a big blow.
No, not concerned. Big loss, of course. He's been probably the most consistent player since I came in. But listen, it's always like this in a national team. You cannot expect everybody to be fit. So we don't dwell on that. We just look at what other options we have. And it's Ryan can play there. Scalesy can play there. Doc can play there and has played for us there. So we have a lot of options. We can also change formations, etc. So, no, we have a lot of options. And that's the good thing about this squad. We have players that can play more than one position, so easy to change in-game as well.
Now, the fit-again duo Chidozie Ogbene of Ipswich Town and Southampton goalkeeper Gavin Bazunu are recalled. Uncapped Stoke City midfielder or defender Boston Lowell and St Mary's Killian Phillips are also included in the 23-man squad. There are good attacking options with Evan Ferguson, Troy Part, Finn Azaz, Sammy Smolik, Ogbene and Mikey Johnston all included. Hallgrímsson was asked about Ferguson's Serie A debut on Saturday.
First impression, really good. Looking at him, he even seems fitter looking at him. Pictures look great without sleeves. And then first game was brilliant. It's tough for a striker to play in Italy. It's not a lot of spaces. It's physical defenders, and he coped with it really well. And I hope he'll bring that into our camp.
What are your thoughts on the squad, Vinny? Like, when you look at the graphic, the midfield section seems to get thinner and thinner and thinner with every passing squad. 4 midfielders, I think, named in this 23-man squad.
I think it's the biggest standout is the squad list, and then you look at midfield and you go Josh Cullen, Jason Knight, Jack Taylor, and Killian Phillips. You're like going, first of all, I think Jason Malumbi not in the squad is really harsh. I think he's been a good servant. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm not sure Killian Phillips has done enough to replace Jason Malumbi, maybe the manager seeing something in terms of he can play narrow off one side and another side. That one seems a little bit strange to me, but our strength and depth in midfield, we all know that is a problem. Josh Cullen had a great weekend, scored a very good goal and a brilliant assist as well in that game. So he's doing okay at Burnley, but
I actually watched St Mirren on Sunday. I was flicking. It was getting towards the end of the women's rugby match, and the game was wrapped up essentially. So I was kind of spending more time watching St Mirren at home to Rangers. It was actually a really good game. St Mirren were very good, but Phillips was kind of playing that role. It was almost like he was just behind the two attackers, and wasn't playing as a deep lying midfielder, and he can't play that role because he doesn't have that kind of presence. He doesn't have the kind of, I suppose, the game intelligence, not to be disrespectful to him. He's a certain type of player, Vinny, as you know. I just don't think he has that, you know, the presence and the I suppose, the domineering kind of effect in it that you would need to have as a central midfielder. And I think Josh Cullen is such a good player, and it was great to see him scoring at the weekend, get the assist. But again, it's that physical presence he maybe lacks as well a bit.
The fact of the matter is that it would be a massive surprise if Jack Taylor or Killian Phillips played.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to say started, but he's going to use his subs on other areas of the pitch. Like, Cullen and Knight is the starting midfield, and I don't suspect that's going to change.
So
maybe there's going to be
not to make this a big story on, but would it shock you if Malumbi had started?
It would have done, yeah, ahead of Cullen or Knight.
No, but I think if Malumbi started beside Cullen, I don't think a lot of people would be shocked by that instead of Knight. I think Knight has done very well for him, don't get me wrong, but some of that has been narrow off one side as almost a third midfielder at different stages.
Do you not think, though, he's a better ball player? Because Malumbi...
Sorry, I think Knight is ahead of Malumbi. The point I'm making is, I think the next in is Malumbi. Yeah. Not like Taylor and Killian Phillips. I think the next midfielder in, if we have an injury, is Malumbi. I think he's number 3. That's why I'm very surprised by that one. And he has played for West Brom in the Championship. Like, he's not out injured or anything like that. So that seems a strange one. Now, we've lots of options ahead of that, and maybe the manager is looking at a different system, and maybe, like, will he be looking at Smodix as a 10? The big question now, the whole squad, is how does he play at the moment? Ferguson and Parrott. And if he does that, feels that has to be a 2 up front, or Parrott playing off of Ferguson, and then that impacts the whole team beyond that, because I don't think we can play that and then be lightweight in midfield with a Knight and
unless you go down the flanks and try and keep the ball away from the middle of the park.
Yeah, so we probably need to play with a back 5 if we're going to play 2 up front.
Okay. And have you started to form your starting 11 in your head for what he's going to go for?
I just even heard the manager there. I think he's in favour of this, and we've seen at different stages. Like, in the lineup, you'd start with a back 5, but in possession, it'll be a back 4. So someone like Ryan Manning would almost give you an option as a left winger, so you could see Finn Azaz playing sort of on the team sheet in the left hand side, but coming in narrow to give a little bit of, we call it the box in midfield. So your two sitting midfielders, say a Parrott, Finn Azaz, and Ryan Manning higher up the pitch, which basically we swivel over and make a back 4 in possession. You'll see a little bit of that, I think. Probably feels like where he goes, he's obviously got decisions to make about Chidozie. Does he play him? Does he go with a 3 up front and have to leave Parrott out, or play Parrott as one of the wide, Evan Parrott, and say Chidozie is a front 3? So he's got a lot of decisions to make. He's at home. I think we've got to win the game.
He's played Smodix out on the left as well.
Yeah, Smodix has played out on the left. So
do you think he can play Parrott and Ferguson, and do you think it's unlikely he will? Or
I think if he plays Parrott and Ferguson, he has to play with back 5 and 2 wing backs.
From what you're seeing already, though, do you think Parrott and Ferguson are? Do you think that's what he'll go for?
But I think if you're picking your best, if this is a club team, you're getting the 2 of them into your team.
Yeah. So if you break it down like this, like the 4 forwards that might be up for debate for 3 positions, you've got Parrott, who is Ireland's most informed goal scorer at club level. You've got Ferguson, who is pound for pound Ireland's best attacker. You've got Finn Azaz, who for the Republic of Ireland has been their most informed player in competitive matches. And then you've got Chidozie Ogbene, who is Chidozie Ogbene. Like, all 4 of those are not starting. And
well, there is a scenario with that, absolutely is. But then
how? Because Ogbene is as your right wing back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how you manage international team like a club side. And I've mentioned this so many times on here, is That's probably, in one sense, what Wales did for years, and that's how they got to major tournaments. Yes, they had Gareth Bale, who had the X factor and got the big moments, but just sticking with a team and a way of playing. And even under this manager, and I understand why he's doing it, but we've had about 5 years of chopping and changing, no consistent team, where we've got to come up with a way of playing. Like, you look at so many players like Malumbi, you go back to him, he's just all of a sudden he's blown out. Like Doherty was blown out at one stage as well, came back in and scores and done really well. I think to get a home, to get our best, you'd rather at home we played a 4-3-3, okay? But doing that, you are vulnerable with the midfielders we have. We are vulnerable in the central midfield to do that. So
and that's the thing, because he definitely, sorry, my mic, he definitely seems to want a back four. That's the way, you kind of take it from looking at the previous games. But this isn't kind of, jumping on the Ferguson bandwagon, getting carried away or whatever, but just looking at that Gasparini team, which was the same as his Atalanta formation. It was a 3-4-2-1 the other night with, I think it was El Shaarawy on the left, and I think it was Wesley on the right side playing off Ferguson. And you're kind of thinking, that formation might actually suit Ireland, because you've got that back five essentially with the two wing backs pushing on. And there wasn't a huge amount going through the middle for Roma. Manu Kone wasn't very good on the night, but
Sole was the other person in behind.
Sole. Wesley was further wide right.
He's the wing back.
You're kind of thinking maybe that's the kind of formation we need, because you'd have Paris and Azaz maybe playing off Ferguson then up front. But look, as I said, that's all pie in the sky.
Yeah, so
it does look like.
But if you start with Ferguson, build your team back.
Yeah.
You might look at a solution like that.
And that's why you could see a Troy Parrott in there. But the difference with Roma is, yes, but their 2 6s are workhorses, they're machines, and they don't leave that area. The manager doesn't allow them. They play man v man and stuff as well. Like, real quickly, think who's definitely going to start. Keller, I think, is still number one, right?
Collins,
Dara O'Shea.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Matt Doherty is either in a back three or he's a right back. I think absolutely Ryan Manning, he's been impressed by his start of the season well. Knight and Cullen is a definite as two of whatever formation, and Ferguson definitely starts.
Got 3 spots left.
Yeah, and that changes how the team is set up, changes who them people are. I think we'd all want Parrott in at home. We should be getting Parrott in. Okay. He's on form. But if we get Parrott and Ferguson together, are we playing Parrott narrow off a right or a left? And you could see that. So why you talk about, say, Ryan Manning playing left back, when we have the ball, he's a left winger.
Yeah.
And Parrott leaves the left area and comes in to that sort of number 10 position with Finn Azaz in there already. So there's plenty of little combinations that he has, but it's still not straightforward. We're still finding, and I feel we bloody need to win this game.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, the excitement is real right now, but it will be punctured pretty quickly with an opening day defeat. We should move on and do a couple of other stories. Steve-O, you want to bring us the latest on the Isak saga? What did Eddie Howe have to say about this?
I know, and I'm conscious of the fact that people are maybe getting bored of this one, but there was a development in this story yesterday. Obviously, that big game last night between Newcastle and Liverpool was live on TV, and we saw pictures of the chairman, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, in the stands alongside the director of football there. But Eddie Howe, after the match, called for clarity over the Sweden international's future after seeing his side edged out by suitors Liverpool in that 5-goal thriller at St James's Park. Of course, the 16-year-old substitute Rio Ngumoha snatched a 3-2 win for the Reds. There were reports the owners had met Isak earlier in the day. Howe insisted after the game he was not party to what was said during those discussions. He feels a decision over the striker, who was the subject of that rejected £110 million bid from the Reds, was needed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ideal from everyone. Our side, Newcastle's side, is we want clarity. We want to move forward. We want the sort of narrative to change, because we're in the start of the season now. We're into the action, and we've got to get results, and we've got to try and focus on what we can control. We've given 2 really, really good performances. We've ended up with 1 point. That's tough for us to take, in this, especially in this moment where you're looking for positive to cling to. But we battle through, and we now go on to Leeds.
Yeah, we all battled through the saga. Now, the League Cup action is taking place tonight. 19 ties in all. Strap yourself in, lads. Here we go. All 19. No, I'm only joking. There's 2 all Premier League ties in the second round. West Ham at Wolves, Bournemouth welcoming Brentford. And just a note, Sunderland looking to avoid an upset at home to Huddersfield, while Leeds go to Yorkshire rivals Sheffield Wednesday.
That just exposes your Premier League elitist mindset there, Steve-O.
18 of them are live on TV tonight, and they're the ones you pick out.
Bloody Taylor Swift, we might have got them all.
You want to bring us the scores from the tennis?
Yeah, women's 18th seed Beatriz Haddad-Maia from Brazil won the deciding set against Britain's Sonny Cartal in the first round of the US Open. Elsewhere, 2022 champion Iga Swiatek defeated Emiliano Arango in straight sets, while American Amanda Anisimova is just getting underway against Kimberly Burrell. In the men's draw, the defending champion and world number 1 Yannick Sinner started his campaign against Zvit Kopriva from the Czech Republic. The Italian won the first set 6-1. 10 seed Lorenzo Musetti lost the first set of his match, but then won the next 3 against Giovanni Pecci Pericard to advance. At the pick of the men's ties today, Stefanos Tsitsipas and Alexander Muller.
Very good, Stephen Doyle. Thank you. How are you going to celebrate the rest of your Travis Taylor engagement day?
I think we'll go off and make a nice cup of tea, will we? Yeah. Glass of bubbly maybe, Vinny?
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping Steve invites me down to Electric Picnic with him, go to a few gigs.
Vinny's googling Taylor Swift there, looking for the confetti.
I'm just quick update. Celtic are still doing the exact same thing, and not looking like scoring anytime soon. So hopefully there's a bit of Steve McLaren in me, and he's scoring the next couple of seconds when I say they're not likely to score.
Fingers crossed. 85 minutes on the clock. It's still Kairat Almaty 0, Celtic 0 on aggregate. So going the distance, I suspect. Steve-O, Vinny, thank you. Vinny is going to be back with us a little later on for the football show from 9 p.m. We're going to be speaking to Sean Patton, Donegal goalkeeper, next. Before that, Cash Machine.
News Talk's Summer Cash Machine.
Now, after